Imagine you live in a neighborhood or a subdivision. You want it to be a healthy place for you and your neighbors, right? That means you do proactive, responsible things like keeping your yard mowed and picking up trash. In our legislative advocacy world, this is like us introducing bills, things we do proactively to make our community better. Now, imagine in the middle of your neighborhood, someone wants to build a landfill. Yep, they bought a couple houses and now they want to tear them down and convince elected officials to change the zoning so they can put in a landfill in the middle of your neighborhood. Okay, this is a crazy idea. It would never fly. But if no one speaks out against it, and the new owners only talk about the benefits, trash needs to go somewhere, it will create jobs, and so on, then could it actually happen? Bad bills become law when no one tries to stop them. On today's Better Advocacy in 10 minutes or less, we're going to talk about bad bills and how to stop them. Now, do you remember me talking about bad bills? I covered them very briefly a long while ago in the How to Monitor Bills episode. So go check it out. There's a link for it right up there, I think. Okay, so let's start with what is a bad bill. A bad bill is any policy idea introduced as a bill that would hurt your cause, the people or ideas you represent, or is something else you or your team decide is worth fighting against. Sometimes it's a bill that directly attacks folks. Think bills that try to restrict religious freedoms or reproductive rights. Other times it's a bill that may be well-intentioned but could have serious consequences. A person may introduce a bill to restrict bars near schools, but it's written so broadly that it would eliminate all the restaurants in a neighborhood. You may be asking, where do these come from? Now, sometimes there are organized groups or lobbyists with interests opposed to yours that introduce them. These are the hard to fight, but we'll get to that later. And other times it's because someone in that legislator's district was really annoying and kept pestering them to introduce a bill. And even though the legislator doesn't care about the cause, they took up the bill just to shut the person up. Yep, this happens way more than you'd expect. Now, before you can stop a bad bill, you have to find it. And this can be difficult. I've seen plenty of bad bills slip through committees and subcommittees and make it all the way to the floor before anyone realizes it's something that should be fought. So, you have to be proactive and vigilant. Do keyword searches for bills that might impact you. Look at the dockets for committees and subcommittees that routinely handle your policy area. And don't neglect the courts or rules committees or whatever they call them in your state. Sometimes policy bills will end up in those because it involves the court system or is technically a rule fix. Don't just rely on your own eyes either. Ask allies if they've noticed anything that might be of interest to you too. Hopefully, there won't be any to find. But if there are, you need to act fast to stop them. Now, stopping a bad bill quickly is key. The longer you wait, the later you find out about it, the harder it will be to stop it. Your first line of attack is the patron, the legislator who introduced the bill. Always start with them. If the bill hasn't had a hearing yet, set up an urgent meeting. When trying to get the appointment, tell the staffer you have serious concerns about the legislation that you want to share with the patron. This will usually get the legislator's attention. They don't like surprises, and they are usually willing to listen, especially if the bill isn't one they've campaigned on. All right, so you get the meeting. When you go to the meeting, first, ask the story behind the bill. Find out why they're carrying it. It could be a disgruntled constituent, the governor requesting it, or somewhere in between. Whatever it is, this will help you understand your next steps. The more powerful the people behind the bill, the harder it is to kill. In any case, start by laying out in as simple terms as possible how the bill is bad. If the bill does not have powerful people behind it, that may be enough to get them to withdraw the bill before its first hearing. If it's coming from a government agency, reach out to their legislative liaison and request a meeting. Explain your concerns. Sometimes there are actually unintended consequences they didn't even consider. If you can convince them, great. If not, get ready to stand your ground and do the hard work of rallying folks to your side. Meet with legislators on the committee or subcommittee that will hear the bill first. Share your concerns, answer questions, try to get their commitment to vote no. Do you have advocacy groups that might agree with you? Reach out to them to share your concerns as well. See if they'll include it in their talking points or call to action. See if they'll even show up at the hearing to speak against it as well. If you have connections with a reporter, share the bad bill and all the harm it will cause. Basically, your talking points. Connect them with people who will be directly impacted by this bad legislation. If you can get the media on your side, it makes it that much harder for legislators to vote for the bad bill. Now, will this work? Will the lobbying, personal appeals, and media pressure change votes? I'll be honest. If it's a bill supported by the party in power, you will have a hard uphill battle, but one that is worth fighting. It will take strategy, energy, and skill. And you've got that. Plus, you have all these better advocacy in 10 minutes or less videos. And remember, the sooner you can attack a bad bill, that's before it gets its first yay votes, the more success you will have. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Better Advocacy in 10 minutes or less. I will see you soon.